Welcome to Livin Local from BlackHillSuperFan.com, Episode 2. This podcast helps you get to know local business and community leaders and helps keep you informed and enlightened about the marvelous Black Hills region where we live. I'm your host, Brian Leslie, and today we're Livin Local with Karla Scovell, the Executive Director of the High Plains Western Heritage Center in Spearfish. And Karla, it's a pleasure to be with you here today.
Good to be here, Brian.
Well, tell us a little bit about the High Plains Western Heritage Center. How long has it been here?
Well, our groundbreaking was in 1977, and our day of opening was 1989.
So it's been here for several years, and what can folks find when they come into the center? And first of all, let's talk about why it was built.
Well, it was built with the dream of Harry Blair and Ed Gardner and many others who came alongside them, Bryce Christensen, Oakley Lamphere, Leo Giacomino's father, just to name a few. And the dream was to create a facility that would depict the heritage of the early pioneers and Native Americans to the High Plains.
And it talks about, you've got lots of displays and interactive things on the economy that built the region.
Right, and that is the focus, the major economies that help drive this area for the settlers.
Sure.
So we have, transportation, forestry, mining, ranching, rodeo, of course, just to name a few.
You know, when you think about it, this part of the world, the Black Hills of western South Dakota, was quite a crossroads for different cultures and economies even as well.
Yes, it really was. And also, I have to mention, of course, the dairy industry that developed and to help feed the miners. Mm-hmm. Mining, of course, was one of the top five economies early on.
What are some of the most popular exhibits that you have here at the center?
I would say probably number one is the Tennessee Vaughn statue, the giant white statue.
And we're in the Founders Hall as we're recording this, so it's just right off to our right-hand side, and It towers over our heads about 17 feet tall.
It really is a magnificent piece of work that Gary Shoup designed many years ago, right within the building. He built it right here on site. And I'd say, secondly, our dress display is really well loved by our visitors. Everyone stops to try to imagine how little they must have been and why they dress so nice in such hot, dry weather.
And as I was walking through the museum here at the center, I was struck by the stagecoach. That's a pretty cool sight too.
Yes, to have the the original Spearfish Deadwood stagecoach here really is a wonderful honor to house that here.
It is not often that you get a chance to get up close to a real stagecoach that people paid money to ride in as paying passengers.
I know.
That's an amazing thing to see.
It really is.
And to think that it was one of the last stagecoaches in service in the United States for paying passengers, and it went between Spearfish, South Dakota, and Deadwood.
It did.
And to think that back in those days, it wasn't like you could build a highway from here to there. It was rugged country, and the road was very narrow, and where the stagecoach went, that's about all you could travel, other than maybe a couple of horses side by side.
We have the actual gun that Johnny Slaughter had as he was driving the stagecoach when it was held up.
Also in here, a couple of other unique exhibits. You have the 1902 Cowboys, I believe?
We do.
Or is that 1903? I never
1902.
did that. 1902.
The roundup where they, brought the cattle in fencing to help better track them. It was after the blizzards. And down that same hall, we have some movie memorabilia from Tom Selleck. One of his favorite leather makers was Jerry Croft, a Deadwood resident, has since passed, but his wife Duffy has left us some wonderful items. The saddle that was used in The Last Stand at Sabre River, to name one.
In that movie, right. You've got the Medal of Honor that was awarded to Private Peter Thompson for his bravery and valor during the Battle of the Little Bighorn, of all places. Only one of two, or maybe the only survivor of Company C, which was what Custer was a part of, and is an interesting story.
Yes, it really is. And we are so appreciative of the Spearfish American Legion, the Legion Riders, and all of really the veterans here who helped us create a beautiful display for that. and it has the tribute that it should have, a medal of that caliber.
Awesome. And then on the upper level, I like the sheep wagon, and as your volunteers say, it's like the first RV,
Yes.
which really fits it, doesn't it?
It does, and we've had some elderly folks come in and say, "Oh my goodness, I can remember when I spent my summer in that, and it is hot and dry."
But that's where they literally lived. I mean, talk about tiny house.
Yes,
And this was on wheels,
this
and the
was
shepherds.
their house. Yes,
There was a lot of sheep that was raised. There was quite an area for wool. We talked about agriculture a minute ago.
That's
that
right.
included the wool industry.
Yeah, and to this day, there really is a lot of sheep, ranching going on still here in our area.
Yeah. Something I had never heard of in my entire life until I was up there by the sheep wagon is a stack of flat stones called a Stone Johnny. Never heard of those.
And to think the sheep herders weren't creative with their artwork.
So
Yes.
tell us what those were, actually.
Well, that really was something to help pass the time. It was kind of a form of art. They would create a monument.
So the sheep herders would spend the time by stacking up the flat stones and making, small pyramids, and maybe there was a contest to see who could make the
Who
largest
knew?
ones, the tallest ones. But it's really an interesting part of American history that gets lost so easily with everything else that we have going on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, too, you have a prairie kitchen that looks pretty close to what you might see around the turn of the 18th to 1900s, I would say, right?
Yes.
About then.
Mhm.
And there's always little gadgets that you don't know what they are.
Right, and it's a lot of fun to get some guests who say, "I know what that was."
A few other things here at the center. You've got a beautiful theater that I know you use that quite a bit.
Right, the Bruce Miller Theater, named after, of course, Gary Muledeer's father, Bruce Miller. And we entertain in there quite a bit. There's always a good show every month, like you're having it with High Plains Live. Bands we hear say it's on their bucket list to come play in the Bruce Miller Theater.
A lot of history presentations, community theater I think you've had. And it's also going to be pretty busy during the summer months with the Chuck Wagon show you have coming.
Right, we're going to have the Cowboy Supper and dinner show with Gordy Pratt and Dallas Sellers. It's really taking off on a life of its own.
It's so funny that the West, even though a lot of this history is over 100 years old or more, 150 sometimes, it still has a great appeal to people from all over the world. Don't you get visitors from all over?
We really do, and they come out here looking for the word cowboy and anything related to it, is what we see from our bus groups that come in. And this year, too, we add Colette Tours, international tour bus company. They're going to be coming for our Chuck Wagon dinner show or Cowboy Supper and Music show every Wednesday starting in May for many weeks.
Wow.
We're very grateful for that.
And you've had the Rhodes Scholars in here before.
We have, and they're coming back. We have them coming for the next 2 years as well.
What are some of the things that they say when they come and after they've been here? Do you get much feedback from people?
Oh, we really do. We hear, first of all, a 3-letter word, wow, is usually what they say when they first walk in here. They do absolutely love the displays here and the openness of them. That 90%, I would say, of our displays really are not behind glass, and it makes them feel more real to them. We've also been compared to the Cody Museum. We've seen that on TripAdvisor, someone said if you've been to the Cody Museum, then you have to come to High Plains Western Heritage Center. We're very grateful for the wonderful comments and feedback we get on our TripAdvisor now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about some of the things that are kind of open for display. You do have a huge transportation room with buggies and carts and a huge barbed wire display. And I never understood much about barbed wire. Then I started looking at, talk about artistic talent and display.
I think we have something like 1,200 types on our back wall. And we also, too, have great displays of the Native Americans. We have some amazing collections of arrowheads, among other items in our within the building.
There's just a great Native American history in this part of the country, too.
Right.
And I would say that you have the Frontier Room upstairs that if you stroll down, it looks like you're walking down Main Street with the print shop and the blacksmith shop and a saloon And it feels like you're taking a stroll down Main Street in the late 1800s.
It really does. And the Black Hills Pioneers giving us items so you have a little newspaper area, as you mentioned, kind of like the print shop. And I should also mention too, Brian, our theater as well as our newly remodeled Early Pioneer Room are also a great venue for businesses and large groups to rent, either for family reunions, weddings, meetings. Yeah, we've been really, the Early Pioneer Room has been catching a lot of interest from local businesses. We can seat about 40 to 50 in there, and it's nice for them. They have a gorgeous view while they're meeting, and they also can bring in their own food if they like.
Yeah.
So that's been a nice way for us to add a little additional income here at the Heritage Center.
And that view looks out kind of over toward the north. You see almost the whole town of Spearfish and Lookout Mountain. And I guess on a clear day, you could probably see clear to Montana, Wyoming, and maybe North Dakota.
That's what they say, yeah.
If you have your binoculars.
Yes, I guess. It's been surveyed, and they say on a clear day, if you really can.
You can see all the way to North Dakota.
I'm a little dubious about that fact, but that's what we tell our guests.
But it's a beautiful view, no matter what anybody says. Yeah. Out on the grounds, you have an old schoolhouse, too, the Crow Creek Schoolhouse, the one-room school.
We do, and that roof will be repaired this summer, or spring, actually, thanks to a grant from the Deadwood Historical Preservation. So we'll get that opened up to guests, we hope, for May or June. We're very fortunate. We have an old log cabin. It doesn't really have a lot of story with it, but it is an authentic cabin that would have been from the late 1800s.
Sure. Well, Karla, let's talk about how you came to be associated with the center here. How long have you been with High Plains?
Well, I've been here probably about 14 years, give or take a year. When we first moved to the area in 2001, I attended one of Jim Thompson's famous Heritage of the American West
I remember those
shows. And Peggy the director at the time, Peggy Abels, had made a pitch for volunteers. So I thought that would be really fun, get me away from being a parent of 3 small children once in a while. So I came up to volunteer, and it wasn't long after that where she needed some extra help in the office area. And so I obtained a part-time job then, and 7 years later, I was still here. And I took a break for a while. Of course, Brittany Call did a great job. And then about 2 or 3 years ago now, I came back just to help with some bookkeeping, and just seemed the way things happen, it was just a natural fit for me to become the director.
Before we take our break, I want to ask you a couple of questions about challenges and rewards. What are some of the biggest rewards you've seen serving as the executive director here? What are the things that you go home and say, today was a good day?
Well, I would say because I can walk on my feet. No, just kidding.
At the end of the day.
Cut that out. So I get up the next morning and I can walk. That was a good day the day before. No, actually, very rewarding, I guess, too, when I have an opportunity to really meet the guests who come in and have some personal history. They might be here from California, but they're doing some research on their great-great-grandparents who were from this area, and they find something in here that's related to them, and to see their delight. I mean, we have seen people in tears when something just really touches them on a personal level. Also, too, we get a lot of school groups that come in. At times we've given free passes for the students to take home and bring their parents, and it's just such a delight when we see them come back because they were so excited about it. They wanted to come back and bring their adult parents. So just to see the younger generation get enthused about the history.
On the other side of the coin, what are the biggest challenges facing High Plains?
I think the biggest challenge really is finding creative ways to make ends meet. We are always looking for, of course, we write grants, but we're also looking for programs and other sources of income that it would be a steady income for the Heritage Center. Most museums know that it's difficult to make it with just the door admission. So that's why we're really excited about the Cowboy Supper and the way that's taking off already. And, we're developing, of course, the High Plains Live, coming back with our monthly music. If the community supports those you can't overstate just how critically important people coming and participating with the events up here is.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you a couple more things in our speed round, including what are some things about the High Plains that people don't know, and also, do people always bring stuff in to leave at the museum, and can people do that? But first, we're going to take a break to say thank you to our sponsors. Hey, it's Brian Leslie here, founder of the Superfan Project. In 2017, and with a lot of help from an amazing team, we founded BlackHillSuperFan.com for two reasons. First, to help support local businesses in our towns in a world where big retail and internet big box competition make it tough to survive. Second, we built it to deliver to you, our Superfan members, extraordinary value in the form of discounts and savings at these local businesses. But we wanted to go beyond coupons. Not only do we want you to save money, we want you to get to know business and community leaders. We want to deliver news, cool facts, and things about the beautiful Black Hills that maybe you didn't know, and that you can share with your friends and neighbors and family. Your $7 monthly membership helps support our efforts, and our goal is to deliver back to you 5 to 10 times that amount in savings. And remember, unlike other deal sites, with BlackHillSuperFan.com, when you make a purchase at a local business, 100% of that money goes to that business. It stays in the local community. That's what helps make us unique and helps your spending power have more impact right here in town. So if you haven't subscribed yet, head to BlackHillSuperFan.com and click on the sign up button today. We'd love to have you. Thank you. And as we like to say, we love living local. Back now with Karla Scovell, the Executive Director of the High Plains Western Heritage Center. And Karla, you ready for our speed round?
I'm as ready as I can be, Brian.
All right. What is something about the High Plains Western Heritage Center here in Spearfish that people might not know?
Well, they might not know that early in its inception, Gene Autry and Burl Ives were on our original board of trustees.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And of course, they're not on there anymore. But
no.
Boy, there's nothing like that to help get things started.
Boy, that's for sure.
There
were some connections, I guess, between Oakley Lamphere and some of the others with those famous folks.
And this center, as I've heard it, was also kind of patterned after the National Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City.
Well, actually, vice versa, Brian.
Okay.
That was more patterned after what they designed
For
preliminarily for here.
Okay.
So when you look at that building and you see the early designs for the High Plains Western Heritage Center, then you can see that they had taken that architectural design idea
So it's a very
down
close
to Oklahoma.
connection between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of cowboys and horses, there's actually, I've heard, a horse buried out here somewhere.
Oh, yes. Coffee Joe. Coffee Joe. Paul Tierney's original horse, or a horse that he had won quite a bit with him. And apparently when he passed away, he and Paul and Leo Giacomino decided this would just be a great resting place for Coffee Joe.
So if people want to know where Coffee Joe is buried on the grounds, they can ask you, and you can show them right where it's at.
They can, yes. After much research, we finally located his burial site.
That's awesome. What do you think, Karla, is the key to success at the High Plains?
I would say just letting everyone know that we are open for the public. We want to interact with the community. We want to partner with artists, with musicians, really actually many of the groups in town. We would love to be able to share this beautiful facility, let them get out here and see for themselves, I guess, what they have access to up here. So I think one of the things that's really important is really for the community to rally around us, make use of this facility, and spread the word that we're here.
And part of that, too, your success is the volunteers.
Oh, yes, of course. That goes without saying. We don't mean to take the volunteers for granted, but without them, we definitely could not have stayed in business as long as we have. We have over 30 volunteers.
Wow.
Some of them have been here many years.
Awesome. And they do everything from helping man the phones to welcoming guests when they come in, taking tickets, to sweeping the floors, changing the light bulbs.
Yes, you name it. I call it Fly Patrol. They do that. They're willing to serve pie at events. I mean, you name it. Like you said, there's not much they say no to.
Next question is, what personal habits do you practice that you think help lead to your success in this role here at High Plains?
Well, because this is something that was really out of my element, I guess, my training or background really is in hospital administration. So I have to do a lot of praying, Brian. I start my day with prayer and meditation.
Who doesn't, right?
Exactly. And I don't stop until I go to sleep, really. But actually just really trying to keep an open mind to the opportunities that come through our door. And
just, you're kind of powered by faith some days,
That's
right?
right. Keep your faith alive, get a good night's sleep, make sure you take care of yourself, eat right, everything your mother taught you when you were growing up.
Well, like anything else, speaking of growing up, the museum is always growing and adding things. And how do you get more displays or more artifacts? And I know you've got a basement that it's not accessible to the public, that you've got a lot of things down there. How do you get things into the museum?
Well, really, we don't really go seeking them. I mean, we haven't really, probably in the early years when the museum was first getting established. But now they come to us mostly, at least that's my experience. People who have been here who think, that item that I have that was my great-grandmother's that, would just look really good at the Heritage Center. It fits in with their mission there. We've had some interesting items offered to us, and really the best thing for people to do is just give us a call, send us an email at the info@Western Heritage Center, send us pictures and a description of something you might have in mind. A couple things recently that have been presented to us that we're working on. One is the you mentioned original sheep wagon in an earlier video that you and I had done. We are going to be obtaining an original sheep wagon from the Lamphere family from over in Sturgis, and they want that to be outside where children can actually get in it and explore it. So that's going to be an exciting piece. But just giving us a call mostly, you never know.
Yep. And where do you think the museum's headed, let's say, in 5 years? Do you guys have a vision or a plan for the future?
We do. Our board has been really actively seeking to grow the actual physical plant, the physical building. We are looking at a long-term goal of adding on to the front of the building, possibly have an outdoor amphitheater. That's a vision that a couple of the board members have had. In fact, later this year, we just might be launching a capital campaign for that, the addition to the front of the building.
Awesome. Well, how is the best way for folks to get in touch with the museum, and where can they find out more information?
Well, our website, of course, which is westernheritagecenter.com. They can email us, as I mentioned earlier, info@westernheritagecenter.com. We're on Facebook. Hope to be on Instagram later this year.
Yep. And they can call the center at
605-642-9378.
Well, it's a beautiful place, and I guarantee you, if you decide to come here and spearfish to see High Plains Western Heritage Center, that you will leave having learned something or a lot of something before you go home. So I highly recommend it. Karla, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
You're welcome, Brian. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Hey, and one more thing before we go. Just a word about how BlackHillSuperFan.com is even more unique. When you sign up, your $7 monthly membership is converted into official Superfan credits. 28 credits for $7. And you can use these in many ways, including unlocking discount deals at local businesses and entering to win monthly prize drawings. So check it out today at BlackHillSuperFan.com, where we love Livin Local. And one more thing I'd invite you to do, if you wouldn't mind. Head over to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us an honest review. Let us know what you think about Livin Local. We appreciate your time and thank you for listening.